Odd Shop. We're breaking down the Friday NBA slate and the season schedule. It's been a little weird in terms of the amount of games on slates. Went from 2 to 12 to 2, but tonight back to 11 games. So a lot of different spots to choose from, a lot of different props, a lot of value. While you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also, if you want any more access to myself and all the other guys on the YouTube channel, we've got our Discord channel, which is going to be invaluable for the basketball season because whenever news breaks, I could mention it to you guys. I could at everybody in the Discord channel, let you know what news has happened, how to bet it, what it means. So it's something that is going to be, I think, really important for basketball season, even more so than any other sport. So if you want interest, or if you have interest in that, and you want to get access to it for free for 1 week just to try it out, I've got a link below in the description box, and that'll help you guys to get in the door and just try out the product, see if it's something that is for you or not. A recap of yesterday's bets, which went really, really well. So I had videos yesterday for baseball, for basketball, and for football. Baseball, swept all the bets. Football, swept all the bets. For basketball, we went 2 out of 3. So the only bet that lost yesterday was Anthony Davis over 8.5 rebounds. I had him for over 8.5. I had him projected a little over 10 rebounds. And what ended up happening in that game was Anthony Davis got hurt midway through. Shocking. Anthony Davis gets hurt, and he missed out on about 5 minutes of playing time. So he finishes with 8 rebounds. If he plays or he missed out on about 5 minutes, which if he had played those minutes and not fallen, I think he would have hit the over, but always kind of the risk that comes with Anthony Davis. But overall, we had James Harden under 9.5 assists. That was a plus money bet. It ended up winning. Kawhi Leonard under 23.5 points. We had a huge amount of value. The line on Kawhi actually closed at 17.5. And he came off the bench. He played really limited minutes. So that was a really good bet. And also one that, if you guys watch the video later in the day, the line might not have been available. But also, one of the benefits of the Discord channel, because I was able to add everybody earlier in the day and say, hey, Kawhi is going to be playing limited minutes. And then we also found out he was going to be coming off the bench. So we had really good value on that number. But overall, won 2 out of 3 bets, won the football bets, all of them, won all the baseball bets yesterday. Running hot here. Hopefully, we can keep it going on Friday. These are the best NBA bets for the Friday night games. So as I'm getting into the prop bets here, heads up that I like a lot of plus money bets today. I have 4 props that I've bet for the slate, and 3 of them plus money odds, starting with Jonas Valanciunas under 12.5 rebounds, plus money bet on this one. And when it comes to Valanciunas, I like him a whole bunch, right? I'm a big fan of Valanciunas as a player. I do really like this Pelicans team. I think they're a dark horse to contend for the title this year, as long as Zion Williamson stays healthy. Zion looked just awesome in his first game of the season. So Zion, I think if all goes well, he's a potential MVP candidate this year. But at the same time, too, his presence is going to somewhat minimize the role of Jonas Valanciunas, who I'm only expecting to play around 27 minutes per game this year. And as a result, it's hard for me to think he's reliably going to be getting 13 plus rebounds per game. We have him over at Odd Shop, projected for 10.6 rebounds. The under projected to win 73% of the time, and that's on a plus money bet for Jonas Valanciunas. Another thing to consider, too, about this game, this is a terrible version of the Charlotte Hornets. There is no LaMelo Ball for this team. Miles Bridges, he's dealing with all kinds of personal issues. He's probably not going to play this year. So we've got the Hornets as one of the biggest favorites on the slate, a 7-point favorite. We just saw the Hornets blow out the Nets in the game. Don't be surprised if they end up blowing out the Hornets just like they did the Nets, and we don't see starters at the end of the fourth quarter. So Valanciunas, I really like him as a player, but this is a massive rebound prop at 12.5. Got him projected for 10.6 over at Odd Shopper. Give me the under on Jonas Valanciunas rebounds. Rudy Gobert looked great in his first game at the Minnesota Timberwolves, and honestly, the chemistry between Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, probably better than anybody could have expected. But I think that's causing some of the lines to be pretty inflated when it comes to Rudy Gobert. His first game against his old team, the Utah Jazz, we've got him opening up with an over-under of 14.5 rebounds with plus 110 on the under. That is a crazy line in my opinion. And not because I don't think Rudy Gobert is going to have a great year. I think that he should be the runaway favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. I bet him to win Defensive Player of the Year. I bet him to lead the league in rebounding. But that doesn't mean that a 14.5 rebound prop should be plus 110 on the under. If you look at our projections over at Odd Shopper, we've got Gobert projected for 13 rebounds, a massive number, the highest of any player on today's slate, and by a little bit of a margin. But he needs to get to 15 to hit the over on this prop, and it's just a big number to expect. And another game that I think we should consider as a little bit of blowout risk, because the Utah Jazz no longer have Donovan Mitchell, no longer have Rudy Gobert. Timberwolves favored in this game by about 10 points. And there's a chance this ends up being a one-sided game. And if that happens, kind of what I talked about Valanciunas before, potential for no fourth quarter play for Rudy Gobert. And that would.
All right. How's my boy Keith Mitchell doing?
Keith Mitchell? I don't know, man. I
long
know my guy.
Bomb. I needed a long hitter this week, Geoff.
You should have gone on my guy, Aaron Wise, then.
Well, no. Wise was my so Wise, Ben and I both had Wise on putting for dough. And then I also had Wise as my honorable mention because I got him at 50-1. Last time I put a 35-1 as a long shot. 35-1 on any ticket is a fucking long shot. But, people on Twitter wanted 100,000-1 and all. So I snuck. Wise. Yeah. Trust me. You, me, Ben, we all.
Yeah, no, we're on.
I think share a love for that man.
Yeah, none of us are eating until Wise.
Welcome in. It's Friday. It's the weekend. You don't have anything else to do but hang with us, which is a good thing. You thought I was going to go down the Friday route, right? Well, you can do whatever you want, partake, enjoy whatever you want there, but we appreciate you taking time away from your day. If it's work or if it's I don't have anything to do, I'm going to hang with Geoff and Eytan and Mike. We appreciate that. Hit the thumbs up button. Join the ever-growing Stokastic community. We'll tell you all about No House Advantage, how we'll match your first deposit up to $50. We'll run through this slate as best we can to build a winning ticket a couple of times over. That's why Geoff is here. We also have our free projections and, of course, our optimal lineup, both on Stokastic, both there for you with No House. So when you're building tickets, reminder, of course, you want to take advantage of what we have on top of Geoff's noggin. It's one thing to just tap into that brain, which I'm slowly finding out is an interesting place to be, but we want to match it with projections as well.
Interesting. I appreciate that use. That's not what my wife would call it, but
Yeah, trust me. If the situation was returned, interesting would probably be putting it nice for me too. So trust me. Our wives, I agree on a lot, I would think.
Yeah, probably. My wife doesn't even know what I do. Anyways, that's another discussion.
No. You know what, though? You're right. And I deal with that all the time, which is like, hey, I have to watch these games. I have to do this. And I still do local stuff with the Eagles, right? So it's like, hey, I'm on tomorrow at a certain spot. Like, I'm going on to talk about this game. You mean you can't just go pumpkin patch picking with me at 3:30 on a Sunday? It's like, I still have to convince my wife that not only I have a job, but I work. Trust me, you're not alone, brother.
Yeah, no, it's, everything is just it's my wife is still just on the fence whether anything I do is real, in this office. So, but yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I'm glad to hang out on Friday too with everybody and talk a little NFL props with No House. I mean, look, if you haven't figured it out, man, like there's overlay here. There's really good contests. Like, I know, look, we talk about it all the time, but it's the truth. Guys are sending me tweets, like, look at this big money, and there's not that many people over there. You guys got to check it out. At some point, the site's going to blow up a little bit, and it won't be as it'll be more popular. So
it is, man. It is. It's amazing to see the continued growth of this. You mentioned the overlay, the strategy with it all. No, it absolutely is fantastic to see. All right, so why don't you start as far as, because big picture, we have our projections out here, and I'm always interested to kind of set parameters where if there's a game on the slate that jumps out either way, maybe an extreme where you're thinking, all right, this game has under written all over it, has over written all over it, right? Like maybe there's an opportunity to target a couple of unders in a game in which you think is just going to stink out loud. And then on the flip side is, always trying to identify the shootout for DFS purposes. Same thing here from a betting standpoint. So I don't know if either jump out at you just to start things off.
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, Tampa Bay, Carolina interests me a little bit, especially with the Christian McCaffrey news now. I already really liked Chris Godwin's prop. I mean, Chris Godwin last week felt like free money at like 60 yards, but his prop hasn't really gone up much. I mean, like we're still sitting at like under 70 yards for Godwin, who has out-targeted Evans, like I think it's like 18 to 12 last 2 weeks. Like Brady's trying to get him going. You got another weak secondary. I mean, Carolina's just playing out the string here. Like, they're just going to keep targeting until Godwin goes off because, like, this is what they need. Their offense needs Godwin to take control. And I think going over there is fine. And I mean, the other factor in this is like DJ Moore has just come to a point where, my God, like these totals are so low on DJ Moore. We can go over with basically one catch and run. And there, at the very least, it's going to be garbage time here. So I see this as a traditional Tampa Bay blowout win, which we're used to seeing the last couple of years. I haven't really seen it yet this year, but they get up, they get ahead, they get like 3 touchdowns up. Godwin like scores a 50-yard touchdown. Then the other team just chucks it around. They end up scoring a touchdown. Tampa Bay scores again because they just want to put the emphasis home. I think this will be like 35-14. You know, like that's the kind of game I'm looking at here. I think Godwin's a great over. I think Moore is definitely, I know Moore's been terrible, but like, I just feel like the style of this game will lead to an over. And it wouldn't shock me if Brady goes over either. I know our projections, I'm pretty sure, pretty strong on Brady. I mean, just looking at like, you know, we have him over 280. So, I mean,
he's 277 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I like this game for the big passing dudes. I mean, I think that, like I said, you know, Tampa Bay destroyed Carolina in the 2 games last year, and there's no reason to think it's not going to happen again. So,
absolutely. I wonder if you just get into a point. I mean, the thing too is I'm looking and just a reminder here, like Christian McCaffrey's still here, so you know, don't play him on Carolina. You've got Baker Mayfield who's out, right? So he's still up on this thing as well. Ian Thomas, I don't know. I have zero feel unless it's a projection that Alex has mined for a guy like Ian Thomas. I don't even know if it's worth it putting a play on anybody outside of Carolina, outside of who you mentioned in DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think you just roll with DJ Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of concern that like maybe DJ Moore is on his way out too, and they just like
it would make sense, right?
I mean, they could. I mean, that could be a scenario. But I think like if they're not going to play him or they're going to do something crazy like that, I think we'll probably hear something about it before game time. So, you know, you might want to keep an eye on that. But I mean, like what else, what other option do they have than for PJ Walker to target DJ Moore like 12 times in this game? I mean, that is realistically the only way they could potentially keep up, the only way they're going to go in garbage time.
Yep.
So I like going over on Moore. And I don't, again, like you said, I mean, Ian Thomas maybe, but like Ian Thomas isn't that good. So like you're kind of just putting your life in the hands of a player who, you know, I don't know. Like, I just don't really want to deal with that. So yeah, that I think this game to me is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to overthink it. I don't think anything crazy is going to happen. I think, look, if Carolina gets out in front, it's probably like DJ Moore caught a 40-yard pass or something. So, you know, and that'll just lead to more, but more passing on from Brady. But I think Tampa Bay just puts an exclamation point on this game. They need one of those trademark wins where Brady just goes, you know, 300, 3 touchdowns, and it's just really easy. So I think that's exactly what will happen this week.
Yeah, man. I think Brady himself needs one of these, right? I mean, you had Bowles basically call him out, and you had people on the team being like, dude, this guy, you know, rumors, right? People pissed off. Like, this is the first time that we've had anything remotely close happening to Tom Brady. This shit normally happens to guys like Carson Wentz, right? Where it's like all of a sudden week 3, everybody hates the guy. Like, that doesn't happen to Tom Brady. And yet, yeah, I'm with you. I think Brady definitely needs to make a statement. And I know we're saying that, like, of all things, Tom Brady, it's in a small compartmentalized point here though, Geoff, which is, yeah, I'm with you. I think the team and he as well definitely need to do that.
Yeah. So that's just like, to me, is like the most obvious spot on the board. I mean, again, like I just come back to Godwin. I'm after 12 targets last week and 18 targets, the fact is prop is still like under 65 or just under 70. I mean, that's a strange one. So I mean, another game that I think is going to go how I think it's going to go is Jacksonville at home versus New York. And this one's, I mean, again, I'm bullish on it for different reasons. Like, I think it's an interesting spot to start fading some of the Giants from a rushing perspective, especially. I don't know about Saquon Barkley, and I don't have his prop right.
I do. It's 81.5.
Yeah. So, I mean, that one is probably high enough for me to fade. I think over 80 is too much for Saquon, but also Daniel Jones, if you're getting a rush prop.
Unfortunately not. Just passing yards, touchdowns. And I was hoping for that too. Yeah.
He's coming off the knee injury.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't mind fading Saquon here either. I think both of them are good fades. Jones was obviously coming off the injury, but you look at at Jacksonville's rush defense, they held Jalen Hurts to like under 3 yards per carry, probably his worst rushing day of the year, but they've been really shut down against opposing running backs too. Like if I had to choose fade Jones or Barkley as a rusher, I'd fade Jones for the ankle stuff going on. But I think Barkley is also a fine fade.
I like that.
I really do. I think Jacksonville will absolutely be able to slow this rushing attack down, and they're going to force Daniel Jones to beat them through the air. That's where they've been effective. They've been way more effective at home too. So that's kind of like a good starting point for this game, I think, is to look at an under on Saquon Barkley. Cause I mean, 80 is, anything over 80 is way bigger than you're getting across the industry as well. And I think people are, will be a little bit hesitant to fade Saquon Barkley, with the Giants having won a bunch of games. They haven't been winning it, fantastically. I mean, I don't think that this offense is so good that someone can't come in and shut them down at some point. And I think that on the road, after some big travel games, going to London, back to New York, now to Florida, I think this is a really good letdown spot. Not a good one, just a letdown spot in general for the Giants offense.
I don't remember it because it just happened a couple of minutes ago. So of course I don't remember what I had this morning for breakfast, but Mike, our producer, and you can pop in as well. So what was the comment that you left for us on the Odd Shopper channel? Because I think that perfectly encapsulates Geoff's point about this offense and the foot falling. They're 5-1, and that's their one out there. Like that guy wouldn't start on Arizona before D-Hop came back. I mean, it's insane. So let me just present, and this is probably going to be max, maybe a 4-point play. I don't know how many eyes are even on Bellinger here, the tight end for the Giants, but with all of the flux and all the chaos and all of just the new rotation at the very least of a wide receiver core that Daniel Jones is working with, Bellinger finally got some work last week. 5 targets, 5 catches within that. 3 targets really in each of the last 3. And then you go back to that 5 target against the Dallas Cowboys. So with all the craziness, Geoff, going on, he's at least somebody there that I think is going to get enough volume to get me 3 grabs, in which he's gotten 3 of the 5 games that he's played this year. So the total for receptions is 2.5. I would be inclined to sneak that in, not even as like a 1 or 2, but try and sneak that in, maybe get a little contrarian to the field and sneak that in as like a 4 or 5 point play max.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I mean, again, obviously if I'm thinking the Jags are going to be able to shut down Saquon Barkley, it should be a few more dropbacks.
Yep.
Bellinger's going to be out there. I mean, he's basically turned into like at least their secondary wide receiver at this point. Wan'Dale Robinson is back, but I mean, he's a rookie too, and he's still getting worked into the offense. And I just don't know if Robinson is going to demand like wide receiver 1 targeting. I mean, he might in this offense because there's no other option, but
true.
Yeah, like I think Bellinger, and I like Bellinger over the reception total as well.
Yeah.
Again, like it's on the road. The Jags have been good at points. Like they're very like up and down. They're a raw team, but at this point on at home, like, yeah, I wouldn't be going over for like a ton of big plays, but yeah, the reception, I think it's I think it's solid in our projections as well. And then again, just to round out this game, like, Travis Etienne, I mean, he's like the James Robinson thing was nice to start the year, but like, Travis Etienne's averaged just about 8 yards per carry over his last 2 games. I mean, I think that I think we're getting close to a point where we're already seeing Robinson's snaps go down, but like we might get like the 65-35 split in favor of Etienne in this game. It would not shock me. It's got to be coming. Either way, he's looked fantastic. I would be fine going over rush or probably over rush receiving yards. Probably prefer the rush receiving yards. He's just been explosive. He's ripping off big carries. He's averaging 13 yards per reception the last 2 weeks. And I think that this is a real spot where Jacksonville gets ahead and they just start working him and just giving him the ball to go with. So that's a player, again, I don't mind mixing in, especially if you're going like under on Saquon.
I really like that call. I think that's a sneaky shot right there, especially in this game where it may not be as deep, multiple bodies, let's say, building the ticket by all means. All right, let's move on. You mentioned, and maybe it was just the wording and how you described that Tampa Bay Carolina game. And I think to a lesser extent, I was going to get your thoughts on this game, and you can bounce around where you want to go, Geoff. But I think to a little bit of a lesser extent, you've got Dallas, which is kind of balancing emotion, right? You've got Dak back, like, yeah, you got Dak back. At the same time, you come off a really tough, winnable game, as crazy as that was at one point for the Cowboys, right? That Sunday night in Philadelphia. So I think that there is this element of, all right, bounce back. You also have maybe concern with Dak, maybe not, but just coming right back into the offense. I think this is the week where Dallas's defense puts the book, like shuts the door on all this Detroit talk, right? So similar to how you laid out with Tampa Bay, Carolina, that may open up some pretty good angles here in this Dallas-Detroit game.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you. Detroit, like they got that scrappy moniker, but like how scrappy have they really been this year? I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, their offense definitely like has had some outbursts, but they've also just kind of been beaten to a pulp on defense. Like there's not much resistance here. We have Dak projected for a pretty strong day. And I like the spot. I mean, and like the thing is, you have to remember, it's not like he's coming off like that major injury. Obviously, thumb is important to a throwing quarterback. I get that, but like the knees are okay. Like the ankle, he actually had a little bit of an ankle injury to start, but like that's rested. I think it's a good spot to just jump on Dak's overs, even, maybe over passing touchdowns, over yards. We haven't projected for overs total. I really don't mind that. I think this is a spot where also Dak's coming in. Like there was legitimate like discussion in the media, like Cooper Rush, is this the best option? I think this is a bit of a setup spot for Dak to just kind of, just remind people like he's still pretty good and he's the best option that they have, especially going up against Detroit. So I think that's kind of how I would look to start. And then on the other side, I agree with you about their defense. Jared Goff's total is pretty big here, man. Like Jared Goff has had some sweet setups this year, and he's still like, he's struggling. He struggles to get like 250. It's a pretty big number. Actually, what is his prop this week? I don't have that one in front of me either.
Oh, hold on. I just had it here and it went out. 236.5. That's a pretty decent number right there.
Yeah, it's decent. I mean, it's not as big as I thought it was going to be, but it's still
it's pretty big. Like it's decent.
For Jared Goff.
How about that?
Yeah.
For Jared Goff.
And for Goff going against Dallas, it's big. Like Dallas, I don't even know if Dallas is allowed over a passer to go over that amount. I can't remember what Hurts put up last week, but like he would be the only one. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'm in tune. Like I think Dak comes out, probably puts a little exclamation. They get a lead and they just make things tough for Jared Goff and this Detroit offense who, DeAndre Swift might come back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, but these guys haven't played. These guys have legit injuries where they haven't been playing, haven't been able to do anything. I think it's a tough spot for Detroit, even coming off a bye. So yeah, that's I would start looking at Dak. A little bit worried about CeeDee Lamb being a little bit banged up and stuff like that. So I'm not super bullish on anyone else. You could look at like Zeke, maybe over or something like that. But again, we've got like, the timeshare with Tony Pollard. If they get ahead, do they give Pollard a few more carries? I think Dak is the real target. And then again, I think sprinkling in unders and maybe an interception prop on Goff makes a lot of sense here too.
Yeah, it's a shame, right? Because if you had a Tony Pollard prop, this would be the one to smash from an over.
I think so.
Yeah. Because of you mentioned how he's been integrated. It's like 60-40, if anything, now 50-50 at one point. If anything, when Zeke was struggling, it was just heavier. But also the fact that Dallas is going to be up a lot. And they're not going to drop down. I mean, the guy's fresh off an injury stint, right? He's not going to be dropping back up 28. So I think, if you had that, but Zeke, 66.5 rushing yards, that seems pretty doable, right?
I mean, I think so. He's looked okay the last like couple games too. I mean, he has not been terrible. So, and I think that, as you said, I mean, even though I am kind of bullish on Dak going here, it's not a game where I expect him to drop back 35 times. It's more of just an efficiency thing. We do have Zeke projected for, well over this total. And thinking about it out loud now, I mean, like that, I think it's probably a good target as well. So you can kind of pick and choose here. I would almost even lean just like taking a Zeke over on that number. Maybe even just before Dak, just for the simple fact that we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with Prescott. Maybe they do just like really try to limit his dropbacks. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but Detroit could just be so bad in this game too that like he just doesn't have to do much. So yeah, I think a couple Cowboys definitely projecting as strong plays. Anyways, on the over for us.
No, I think that's the way to go, man. Especially looking. All right, is there anything else in that game, especially looking at it from a slaughter standpoint?
Yeah,
I mean, we don't really have much on the Detroit side unless you wanted to bounce to another game.
No, I mean, like the running back situation's up in the air with Swift, so I'd probably just avoid that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's a really tough matchup. He could get there on volume. I would probably I think Goff is a really good under target, but like otherwise, there's too many games to worry about the other mess, like with them, where the ball's going.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And look, it's a bad team. Bad teams are super volatile. And if you don't have to go on that side, it's not like, and that's the thing, right? It's not like bad teams are automatic unders. That's what the volatility does. They can screw you by putting up 34 points and still lose by 3 touchdowns.
Or throwing 60 times, right?
Yes, yes.
So, yeah.
Perfect point, right? Speaking of throwing 60 times, is that how many times Matt Ryan threw the football last week? My God. And he didn't even throw an interception. I wish I could have a bet on that.
Yeah.
50 plus attempts without an interception. It would have been like plus 3,000 for Matt Ryan coming into last week.
Yeah, the Jags just, I mean, I don't know what they're doing in that game. I mean, allowing Michael Pittman to get open over the middle on every play. I think you could see something semi-similar in this game too. Tennessee has really shored up their rush defense. I know Taylor's back, but it's a tough spot. Tennessee coming off a bye at home. They know that Taylor is a little bit banged up. Like, I think, again, they're going to do exactly what they're going to try and make Matt Ryan beat them. And I don't think it'll actually work this time. So I think like on Matt Ryan, you mentioned the interception prop. I'd have a little bit of interest in that. I think also over, passing completions, potentially even over yards, although his yardage prop is probably up this week. So I don't know how aggressive I want to get with the Matt Ryan over on that, but I do kind of see that he's going to have to drop back again, which the first thing you think is interceptions. So,
yeah, I mean, are we going to go right back to that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Tennessee. All right. What else though? Alec Pierce might be a guy, 3.5 receptions, 50.5 receiving yards, Geoff.
Yeah. I like
the obvious is going to be on Pittman, right?
Yeah. I mean, Pittman's props, I like the spot for the receivers. I think that's like, if you're really being bullish on someone, I'd rather take an over on like a Pittman or a Pierce. I think Pierce has kind of established himself as a second option here. I liked Alec Pierce a lot out at college too. Like, I thought that was I don't know why the Packers didn't take Alex Pierce. Like, they're smart in grabbing dubs, but like that was the guy I thought that they should have grabbed. Anyways, he's on Indy, so who cares? But I like this. I mean, I think that he's clearly like their second best receiver after Pittman. He's going up against a weak secondary. It's a spot where I absolutely think Tennessee is going to be daring Matt Ryan to throw the ball, and they're going to have to do it. So yeah, I think Pierce gets there again. Probably favor the reception slightly over that yardage total because the yardage total is a little inflated. But if you wanted to get aggressive with this game, you go over Pierce yards, maybe over Matt Ryan yards or attempts or something. And you could stack it. You could just go with Pierce and maybe on the other side, you could start looking at the Tennessee plays.
Yeah, on the Tennessee side, and I'm on Tennessee in the game, but I don't have to explain how they get to covering 2 points, right? Like, it's much different when you're looking at if it's Woods, Henry, or I don't even know if you're looking at Ryan Tannehill here at home. But let's start. I mean, Derrick Henry, 93.5 rushing yards. It's Derrick Henry, but I don't know. Is that not high?
Yeah, it's big. We do have Henry projected for a big week though. And he's at home. Like it's always like a little bit, you always feel a little weird saying, oh, is this like the end of Derrick Henry? Is he slowing down? Because this is kind of just what he does. Like he looks kind of weird for a couple games, slower, and then you're like, oh yeah, and then he breaks a big run. He's an athletic freak. Forgot. It kind of feels like this spot. I mean, off a rest week, at home, division game, people are starting to think, oh, maybe Indianapolis can get back in it again. I think if Tennessee wins, like there's a really good chance Derrick Henry just goes berserk in this game. So again, I like you. I don't feel the need to play the Henry prop over, and I think it's a big one. I think it's there. It's just, you know, it's a little bit too big for me to like sit here and say, oh, it's a good play. But if you're going to target this game, you know, Pierce over, Derrick Henry over on the other side makes a ton of sense to me. I mean, it's just like that. Those two correlate, I think, really, really well. You're going up.
Does that correlate with Pittman on, like, somebody's going under, you would think, unless you look at this game as a shootout, which it does have potential with Tennessee's defense being so bad.
Yeah, no, I think there will be opportunity for like, you know, the yards to pile up again for Indy and for them to potentially make a run at it. You know, there could be a danger here where Indy coming off a couple like exhausting wins, you could say, because it was a tough game against Denver, even though it was a shitty game. It was a tough game. And then last week having to play catch up against the Jags, this could just be a Derrick Henry romp and like the parachute gets pulled for Indy, you know, kind of thing. So again, like I don't feel the need to go overboard in this game, but I do like a couple scenarios. I mean, I think Pierce and Henry are both interesting. I wouldn't fade either one of those guys. The Matt Ryan interception prop, I think, is very interesting, and just grabbing that is fine too. So it's not a game that I would potentially like my favorite to kind of correlate or stack, but there's definitely players like you can look at. I think Henry will have a decent game. I think Pierce probably goes over again, and I think Matt Ryan throws a pick. I think those are like the three strongest ways I'm looking at it. I like Michael Pittman, but there's a little bit of worry that maybe like Tennessee just, you know, says, okay, beat us with someone else than Pittman here. And his props are just like the time to get on Michael Pittman was like a week or two ago. So
no, that's the best point, right? We're trying to get ahead of that all the time. And now you look back in hindsight, you think, you know, it's too late. Oh wait, I keep forgetting. Is this a 25 or is this a 30? Oh, it is a 25. We got to get out. Emac and Terry are sitting there like, what the hell, dude? We got to get on here. Geoff, I'm sorry, man. This show flies so fast with you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. No worries.
All right, we're out of here. Don't worry. The No House Advantage hour continues with Emac and Terry coming up for the NBA. They'll tell you, remind you again, you can use our promo code Stokastic. We'll match your first deposit up to $50 just on the way out. Want to remind you on that. For Geoff, for Mike, have a great weekend. We'll see you.